how do we find that common ground? How do we find the middle road? I have my point of views on things, and I'm like, no, this is why I feel the way that I feel. But I grew up here. Both of my brothers have completely different, raised in the same house, but I've also lived in New York City, LA, Boston. I've lived in a lot of cities where I have experienced like homelessness and people of different ethnicities and religions and backgrounds. And I was moving out of a really bad situation in the city. When I found my next apartment, I found it on Craigslist, and I went and looked at it, met this guy, Matt, who was from Russia. His girlfriend, her name was Nosifo, and she was from Botswana. And then the other roommate, Gabby, was from Sweden. And this guy, Gabby, from Sweden. I didn't know these people, and I moved in with them. Bartended, so I was going to work and coming home and sleeping, or I was out doing something with my friends in the city. I was rarely home. But for Thanksgiving that year, none of them had ever had an American Thanksgiving. And they said, well, would you, if you told us what to buy, we'll all split groceries and we'll go get everything because we know you have to work. And will you, show us how to have a traditional American Thanksgiving? I'm like, sure. I said, I've stuffed a turkey and I know how to make, so gave them the whole shopping list. Because Nosy, she didn't work and Matt worked. And so she kind of took care of the house and stuff. It was like this weird thing where she took care of like the apartment, and they went to the, Costco and got all the stuff, and they were so excited, and we all sat down, and some of them had family in town. So Gabby, I think, had Sambuca, and then Matt brought vodka, and we all had different traditions. But we sat down and had a traditional Thanksgiving together, and it's just such a good memory.
Sure.
And it's kind of like if I wasn't open to having that experience, I would have missed out on meeting these people who live completely different lives than I did. I mean, Gabby slept he didn't even have a bed. He had this and meanwhile his room was bigger than mine. And I was kind of like, do you want to you don't have furniture. Do you want to swap bedrooms? Because I have a queen size bed and a dresser and, very, but it was just interesting living with someone who lived with just the bare minimum.
Right.
And he was always happy.
Right.
He was always content. And it's just interesting. So it kind of changes your perspective. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. For a long time, I suffered with depression and anxiety. I had tried therapy before, but struggled finding a therapist I connected with until I found BetterHelp. That's why I am so excited to share BetterHelp's mission to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online. Remote therapy sessions, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. Click the link in description and receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And by clicking that link, you support this channel. Plus, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I was struggling for a long time, and BetterHelp was where I found my therapist, Whitney, who I still see weekly for almost 2 years now. So, if you're struggling like I was, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in description or go to betterhelp.com/altereagle. That's betterhelp.com/altereagle. There's no better time than now to start your mental health journey. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. This episode is brought to you by R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for your support on our first season of the Alter Eagle podcast. Be sure to click the link in bio for your discount for BetterHelp Therapy online. 10% off your first month. Welcome, Alter Eagle. So I'm coming to you after missing a week, and I just wanted to record just a little bit here and say how sorry I am that I have missed you. Life has been a little chaotic for me, and something that I have tried to do is be gentle. Yeah, I've tried to be gentle. If you know me, that's probably not, I don't know. I'd say in some ways, yes, but typically I'm pretty I know what I want. I go for it. I'm assertive. I have a lot of energy. I'm getting off topic here. A lot of life was happening. Let's just say that. And I've tried to be kind. Well, yeah, maybe gentle is the word I'm looking for. Maybe it is gentle. I don't know. It's hard when you're just sitting here talking to yourself in these openings. It's just me. I'm just sitting here in my office. I'm also having to record directly onto the computer because it's a long story. Um, but at the end of it, my point is that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful that I'm okay. I'll say relatively okay. I'm having some things that are going on, and I'm being very cryptic for a lot of reasons, but I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be safe, and I'm grateful to have an amazing support system, not only like with family and friends, but here at the Butler Eagle, I have an amazing support system. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been supportive of me in the last couple weeks. Have had a lot of things happening personally in my life, and I get to a point where I feel like I have to apologize. I have to explain myself. And last week when I wasn't able to drop the episode, I wasn't able to drop the episode. I had to miss quite a few days of work because of a car accident, and I had to just let it go, right? I had to Elsa it. I had to Elsa it and just let it go. So I'm excited to be back. We're going to have 2 episodes dropping this week. So there will be an episode dropping today, and then I'll have another episode dropping later in the week that was supposed to drop today, if that makes any sense. But to get back on track, I just wanted to say to those of you who are listening, thank you for continuing to follow along to listen. I'm a one-woman show over here. It's not that I don't have a support system, but when it comes to editing and putting things together and uploading and doing all of that, that's me, right? And I love doing it. But because of everything that happened, I've realized that I needed to give myself a little bit of grace. That's the word I'm looking for, grace. So I'm giving myself some grace. Really excited about this episode. I feel like I'm excited about every episode, and I probably say that every week. So if I do, I'm not going to apologize for it because that's how I feel. I'm excited to have these conversations with people in our town, but this gentleman in particular, Mr. Bob Dandoy, Mayor of Butler, he is someone I've known since I was a young child. He's known my parents. They were all involved in theater and music together. And he has this amazing story about my dad, which we'll have to save it for another time because we didn't get to tell the story. And I'll be honest with you, it's something you have to visually see him explain. It was about them remodeling a bathroom and, they were trying to I'm just going to tell you, they were trying to decide where to put the toilet paper holder. And he asked my dad, he said, well, where do you think we should put it? And he said, your dad walks over and he kind of looks and he said, and then he gets into a squatting position, like he's going to go to the bathroom. And he's like, well, and he said, and it just in that moment, it was just the funniest thing. If you knew my dad, that was my dad. That's, I feel like that's where I get a lot of my comedic side from. It's definitely from my dad. So it's a great story, and it's definitely something you're going to have Bob Dandoy. So if you ever see Bob Dandoy out in the street, maybe just say, hey, do you want to tell us that story about Wilbur Crago and the remodeling the bathroom and trying to decide where the toilet paper holder is? I'm sure he'll thank me for this later. But if you need a laugh, ask him. He might tell you. He might not. You can just blame it on me. But it was really great to sit down with him. We recorded this episode in the Grand Ballroom. Just the thought of our conversation and what made sense for the conversation. If you've never been to the Grand Ballroom downtown, it's a beautiful, beautiful space. There's multiple areas that you can rent out for, whether it be for a wedding or reception or graduation party or meetings, whatever it might be that you're looking to hold a special event there. But it's a testament to downtown Butler and the possibility of downtown Butler. And that really was what we wanted to discuss in this episode. So let's get to it, and I'll catch you on the flip side. As we're sitting here. So we are sitting here. I'm sitting here with Bob Dandoy, our mayor of Butler, and we're in the Grand Ballroom in downtown Butler right now.
We are.
So we wanted to sit here because today we're going to talk about the potential of Butler And this is an example of that, right?
Yeah, I thought that when people start to engage, especially it seems to be right now with all the things that are happening in the city, and when people start to engage in a conversation about it, they talk about, oh, what's the potential, and look at the future, and there's going to be all these neat things happening in Butler. But I thought maybe what we should do is talk about some of the people who are visionary enough to invest in downtown Butler and to say, you know, I think this would be a good thing for downtown Butler, and have already succeeded, okay? Because, you know, when you talk about things, oh, it'd be really great if we could have this and really great if we could have this, but that's all wishing, you know, and hoping that it's going to turn out. But we do have evidence that these things work.
Yes.
And I think if we also look at some of the ventures, the initiatives that have taken place over the years, then we can also see what it takes. Not simply that, see, it can work, but what it takes to make it work, and sort of frame any kind of discussion about the future of Butler that way. The idea that, you know, if we look at it historically, you know, what has happened. So, so that's why we're in the Grand Ballroom. Why I said, you know, this is a gem that sits right smack dab in the heart of Butler, that there are still people who have never been up here who don't know about it and don't understand what it's for or anything like that, and to just shine a little spotlight on that, and then we'll talk about some other things that that have happened downtown.
I mean, we're sitting above Johnny's Distillery that's below us, but I think we're up on. Are we on the 4th floor right now? Is this? And the big room is in the back.
3rd floor, and there's a bigger room.
We're in the 3rd floor. There's a bigger room in the back. So a lot of events that happen here, I know, like a lot of weddings do happen here, right?
Right.
But what kind of other events do they?
Well, they can do almost anything.
Yeah.
I was talking with Joe and Jackie Gray, who have the place, and they saw the potential here and invested in this many years ago. It was early 2000s. And it's kind of a good little historical Butler story there. I can remember at that time we had a thing in Butler called Ring in the Arts. And it was New Year's Eve celebration on Main Street, where you went up and down Main Street to different venues, and there was everything from art to music to family activities, kids activities, food, you know, on New Year's Eve. And I can remember coming to this venue because it was just being worked on, and it wasn't done. And up on this floor, there were still walls, you know, that were just framed 2x4. There wasn't anything there, you know. And they still had an orchestra up here. I think it was the Anthony James, the Cyprian brothers that played up here on this floor. And you come up, you could hear the band play, and it was just. They said it was just framing. It wasn't anything here. Yeah. And then you come up later when it's done, and you see really how elegant it is, and it almost transports you that you say, wow, I'm in downtown Butler. It's one of those moments, and it's very elegant, it's very classy.
Yes.
And we have here civic events. I mean, a lot of the fraternal organizations and service organizations, rather, like Rotary and Butler Downtown has events here that they, you know, bring people together in the middle of Butler and put them high above so you can kind of see what's around you. Recently, we had through the city, we've started an initiative to get more conversations going on with community leaders, business leaders.
Okay.
And we had a luncheon here that was the mayor's hosted luncheon, but I did it with
fancy.
Cooperation with the Community Development Corporation, CDC.
Yeah.
And we came up and we had lunch, and then we managed to talk with business leaders. And the biggest takeaway I got from that meeting was, as everybody was leaving, they said, we got to do this again. And it was very, very positive in that sense. So we just had that in this facility. So this facility is here, and I think there should be, you know, any time that this place sits empty, it shouldn't be. You know, there should be things going on here all the time, and I'd love to see people make more use of it. These are the kind of things that impact the entire economic structure of the downtown area. Because anytime you would have an event here, and that's aside from something like a wedding reception or whatever, which is great for wedding receptions.
Yeah.
But when you have an event here and people are coming into the building, as they come in and as they go out, as you said, there's Johnny's Distillery down below, the Brew Works is down the street, soon as you get a winery, there are shops, there are restaurants, there's all these things going on. They stop there, they see those places, maybe come down another night and go, whatever it is, it's bringing people into the downtown area. So, and it's a very versatile spot too, because you have the room that we're sitting in, which is a smaller room, but then there's the bigger room in the back with a little kind of joining room in between with a couple of chairs. Actually, we've stolen a couple of these.
We've stolen a couple of the comfortable chairs. I was like, let's sit in those.
Yeah,
those look good.
and again, when you walk into the room, when it's set up for a wedding or something like that, it's one of those kind of moments.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I just love the view up here too, because looking out and like seeing all the buildings in downtown.
I know. You see those top floor architecture that people don't even notice.
The things that you don't typically see.
Yeah.
And even I feel like no, that's not, for some reason I did think that's not the junior high though. It's farther.
Yeah, you're looking.
What is that building right there on the other side of the parking lot? Is that?
I can't get turned around.
Sorry. You're like, I gotta actually. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Oh, that might be the Cubs. Okay. The old YMCA.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
That's what that is. So the junior high would just be right up from that.
Yes, okay, that's right. It's like, okay. So yeah, I was trying to see, and then we can see the Spring Hill Suites. And
the churches. And
we can see the church, yeah. So you'll see the church. Do we see the church behind Bob still? Okay, yeah. So, because I can't see from your angle, but how old is this building? Do you know how old?
That I don't know. No.
Okay.
I said the Ballroom has been here since the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things like I said, and Joe and Jackie Gray who did this. They understand, they get it. Okay. What a downtown, what the potential is, and what people want out of downtown. Shopping, socializing, and living, because there are apartments that are down here that people can live in. There is a generation, it's probably yours and a little bit younger,
that's kind of what I'm
sitting there saying that we don't want lawns to mow, we don't want sidewalks to shovel, we don't want maintenance, we want to live in an apartment. Matter of fact, it was kind of interesting. A few years ago, there was a trend that people of my age were not moving to what they know as the Sun Belt, down in Arizona, Florida, that whole area. They were moving to major cities, okay?
Yeah.
And they were doing this because they wanted to...
Wait, let's wait till it's really picking up. I kind of like that, though.
Yeah, it is.
It's good.
Now you're in a city.
Hey, we're in downtown Butler, so that's why I wanted to do this. Okay, sorry.
And that makes my point.
Yeah.
Is that this group, this age range of people, vintage of people, as I call ourselves, didn't want that either. But what they more wanted was the ability to walk out their front door and be right there in the middle of theater, music, sports, dining, shopping, steps away. They don't have to get in their car and drive. They can just walk up the street. If you go down to Pittsburgh, in the theater district, there are these beautiful apartments down there on Penn Avenue and in that area, but closer to the point.
Yeah.
That, again, you walk out the door and you are right there. And that's what people are wanting in the downtown area. And
they do.
To provide these amenities. And that's what we're starting to, bit by bit, little by little, get these things into our downtown area. So now we have a brewery. And again, that was foresightful when those guys, came forward and they said, we're going to open a brewery in downtown Butler. We had another brewery, but that one has been very successful, and Butler Brew Works. And so they said, that's a good one. And so then recently, Sherry Lynn everybody knows Sherry from the Atrium, And she said, this opportunity exists in this building to put in Johnny's Distillery. And so that becomes another social venue.
Yes.
And then soon to open is a winery, Porchview Winery that's down the street.
Which I'm so excited now that I know that he has imported.
Yeah, they work with not local grapes, but they bring in juices from Chile, Italy, and I think it's Sonoma, someplace like that,
For the wine connoisseur in me, I am very excited and satisfied with that.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's, and they're very successful. They have a winery up near Clarion, I believe.
Okay.
And so they're coming into Butler, and we're excited about that. It's another thing that just brings people downtown for a city experience. Now, this isn't, I make no pretensions. We're not Pittsburgh, or we're not New York, we're not San Francisco. It's a small town America, but nonetheless, we're starting to get some of those things that make this a little bit more enjoyable. And we can see that in the surrounding area too, in towns like Zelienople and places like that have also embraced this notion of let's put in the unique shops. One of the things I tell business owners all the time, don't try to compete with Walmart. You can't, okay? Don't try to compete with Applebee's. You can't. You can't do that pricing. You can't get that. What you've got to do is you've got to present an alternative to that. So that people are saying, I want to get a unique present for my Aunt Louise, all right? And they come downtown Butler. You go to Grows on Main, okay?
Yes.
You can't find that stuff, the beautiful things she has in that shop. You can't get that at Walmart and Target and stuff like that. And I'm not bad-mouthing those places.
No,
they
of course
have
not.
great prices and great affordable things there that are very beautiful, but
there's a uniqueness to her
absolutely,
plants, right?
Absolutely. You can't get the food that Bill Atkinson makes at the Chop Shop at Applebee's. I mean, he thinks outside
Their burgers are
box,
so good. That's all I've had. Yeah,
and it's great food. It's very, very imaginative. And that's not discounting when you also look in downtown Butler at the families and business owners who have been here for a long time. Vince Tavalerio and the Tillys and the Ciprians with Miller's Shoes and stuff, Miller's Meats, the jewelry stores, Don Paul and Robert Stevens, and all the other ones that are down here. These are, they've been around for a long time, but there are still those people who are bringing some innovation in the downtown area, and that nice combination of those things really makes it better.
Yeah.
And just, again, goes to show, because every one of the businesses I mentioned, the new businesses, have been successful, okay? So when they come into the downtown area and they're saying, yeah, we want to invest here.
Yeah.
We want to be part of this. It's good. It's a wise business decision.
It
it's
is.
not just, out of the goodness of my heart, I want to help Butler. No, that's a smart and sound business decision to do that.
Yeah. I think having these new businesses that are sort of not adhering, but sort of attracting that young demographic, what we're talking about, like young families and, people my age or in our
Young
40s.
professionals.
Yeah, young
absolutely.
professionals who I have said this, like there haven't been a lot of reasons for me to come to downtown Butler. And I've only recently moved back in the last 2 years. So for me, I've started coming because of, we went to the Musical Theater Guild show last Friday, took my mom home, and we went to Johnny's Distillery.
Right, sure.
That's where I want to go.
Well, one night, some friends of mine, they were doing at Johnny's, I can't remember if that was the night when we went to the play or one of their improv nights.
Yes.
But I think it might have been the improv night that some friends we met here at Johnny's, and you're sitting there and the garage door is up and you're watching friends walk by and you're having a nice, beverage, and then we walked across the street, went to the improv night, and we walked out of it, and downtown was still buzzing a little bit. There were people coming and going from places.
Yeah.
And I kind of stood there and soaked it in for a minute. Went,
so it's starting. It's starting.
Yeah, it's starting. Yeah.
I mean, improv. That was my other point too. Is that we've had the Butler Little Theater here, but I do think that Hobnob, there's like a different energy behind what they're doing. They're doing things that are very different. It's
Right.
To me, it's complementary to
Absolutely.
the Butler Little Theater.
Well, we were talking before we started recording here about, again, and right below us here, up the street is Vintage Coffee.
Yes.
Okay? And of course, for years and years and years, I think it might be the second oldest business on Main Street is Cummings Coffee.
Yes.
So we have Cummings Coffee down there. You say, well, Butler's not a huge metropolitan area. Do we really need another coffee shop? And Pete and Angela come in and they say, we're going to open Vintage. Okay, now you got Barry down the street and you got this here. Mm-hmm. You go in these two shops, it is a different vibe in each one.
Yes.
You know? And they complement each other. They really do. And I think they make for a great, vibrant downtown area to have these two businesses here. They're not cutthroat. They're not killing each other. They're existing together, and I think they're starting to prosper and do really well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're both here.
Me too.
It's really nice. The more restaurants we get in downtown Butler, not just coffee shops, but the restaurants in general, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because then that just makes an evening that is more diverse. It's not just we're going here and sitting here all night. You can move, you can do things, and you have a lot of different options and opportunities.
My brain has been on that topic specifically just because I've worked in restaurants, and when I first moved back, I worked at an Italian restaurant in Zilli, and looking at what we have here in downtown Butler, I'm like, well, we have Natilli's, which has been here for, how long is Natilli's?
Well, the North has been here for over 50 years, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you have that. Chop Shop is, I know that they're killing it there. I've only eaten there one time, and I can't think of what else do we have. Why is my brain sort of
in downtown area?
Yeah, is that it?
No.
There's
we have these ones that are the kind of niche restaurants.
Oh, that's right. We have Butler Downtown Bagel House.
Of course, we have the Brewworks.
We have yes. I'm sorry. I can't believe I didn't. I go to Brewworks for lunch all the time. I got to give a shout out to Brewworks because yes.
One of the unknown treasures, I think, is Miko's, which is across the street from here. It's an Asian fusion place.
I haven't been there yet.
Wonderful food. So you have that there.
Canella's Cafe.
Cannella.
I do love.
Best breakfast in Butler County.
Yes, I'm sorry. Canella's. Man, my brain today. I need more coffee.
So,
I think.
when you, there's these things that are happening.
There are, and they are all very different.
Very different, yeah.
There's also another isn't there another sandwich shop something on this side of the street?
Yeah.
Yeah, Upper Crust. Although when I saw Upper Crust, I thought pizza.
Yeah.
Right away, I was like, pizza?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
And we have Domino's.
But we have pizza, but we have Max Pizza, that's up around the corner there.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's a great pizza shop. Great pizza, salads and stuff.
So there's
a lot of,
Yeah. It's definitely happening, and I see a lot of buildings that I'm like, man, I want something good to go in there.
And to be clear about this isn't just a conversation about, isn't it cool to have these things? These are all economic drivers into the city of Butler. With small business, because small business is a huge impact on employment, become jobs, okay? So with the jobs we have people who are part of the downtown fabric. They pay taxes. With more taxes becomes more services, more we're able to maintain the infrastructure that we're, trying to keep our head above water with, but it's very demanding. We have an infrastructure in the city of Butler and services too. That's the fire department, police department, all these things like this. So we have all these things. When I was a kid, there were 20-some thousand people in the city of Butler. There's now about 13. So we've got an infrastructure that has been built, maintained, developed for 20-some thousand people, being maintained by the resources from 13,000 people, okay? That doesn't add up. And that's why it's very, very hard and very difficult, and why we face challenges in the days to come in the city. But if we're able to get more businesses, small businesses into downtown Butler, wonderful. We have the potential coming up here. This is a real small business, and I can't give you all the details, but about a business moving into town that almost immediately will create 30 to 35 jobs. And that's great. They're good jobs, and they're not just busboys. I'm not saying anything wrong about being a busboy.
Yes.
I did it, but it's, these are good jobs. And
there are a lot of people in the city who need jobs because they possibly don't have transportation or
It's exactly why you live in a city.
a lot of people, that's a lot of the financial struggle, right? Because I know, and you know, I have lived in 7 or 8 states, and my car insurance is the most expensive it's ever been.
Sure.
As a single person who has a clean driving record, and that's just based off of overall liability in the state, right, or in your area. So it goes off of like how many like accidents or whatever they go off of. Because I called my car insurance company, I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm confused here. I haven't had, well, this is the average and everybody's rates went up. So, you know, that's something that's exciting. But the question to you is, and we briefly talked about this if you want to talk about it, was, and maybe this is what's coming in, but the thought of what could be the next big thing for downtown Butler that I think would really turn it into that. Like I can just walk and I can get everything I need in downtown, right?
Right.
We did kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that idea.
Well, let me go back a little bit first and again, make one last point about why.
Yeah.
Okay, the why. And again, not just because it's cool, but again, not just because, oh, now we can tax the hell out of the people that live here. No, that's not what I'm saying.
No.
A business comes in, okay, and they say, we want to employ 25, 50, 100 people, okay? To employ those people and train those people takes money. Then business is part. So the business is making not just an investment in brick and mortar, okay, a building down here that they're going to put something into, but into the people that will be working there. Mm-hmm. So you're a young person, a young professional, and they're saying, I don't know that I want to live in Butler, but I'm going to take this job. We'll see. Okay, it's a job. So they come to Butler and they decide this place has nothing. It is a bore. Within a year, they're gone. Now, what's the business have to do? Train those people, all right? They have to get a whole new group of people. That costs more money. So if we can keep people happy through all the different places that we have, and then, of course, the amenities like parks and recreation and the festivals and all these things like this, that will help, okay?
Yeah.
So what's the next big thing for Butler? Well, I think right down the street we have another, evidence of something big that'll be happening in Butler that is getting off the ground now, and that's the Penn Theater, okay? It's obviously got great potential. I mean, this is something that excites people, and it's getting off the ground. There's still work to be done on the facility, but there's already having entertainment and events and things like this in there. So that's, again, sitting on the cusp of being ready to realize its potential and really impact the downtown area. That's huge. I think the biggest thing that we're going to have, that we would have coming up in Butler, that we need is housing, okay? That's probably one of the biggest things. If we get the cool apartments, the cool places, and there are some. If you saw some of the apartments, people don't realize, they think.
I've seen a few. I've seen a few on Zillow because when I got my place, I got it closer to Zilly because that's where I was working at the time. And I just wanted something close to where I was. And I found a great house for rent, a house with a garage and a basement. And then I got a washer and dryer. Right. So I have all of those things right there. And I've lived the apartment life. I've lived in big city. I lived in New York for 7 years. So I do like everything that you're saying. That's would bring me to Butler.
Right.
Obviously, my job is here. There are a lot of things in downtown Butler that I'm like, oh, it would be kind of cool to actually be able to go to that winery and just walk home, right? It would be cool to get up in the morning and take a walk down to Vintage or to Cummings. Like, yes, I'm all for that. For me, there's a couple of apartment places I've looked at in the city. I would probably much rather live in an apartment building that has older people living in it because I know it would be quiet.
Yeah.
Because I want quiet.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a building with super young people that are going to be having. That's just where I'm at right now. Like I want to have people over, right? But I'm not having a rager. Like that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a house, would I be having bonfires and would I be having fires in my backyard? Absolutely. So I would like to be able to get a house in Butler, but economically, it's not really feasible right now.
Of course,
right now, it's not a good.
That's one of those places that we're at that we're right again on the edge, because you have some housing that is in Butler that would be very affordable, but perhaps it's going to take too much of an investment to get the house up to speed, and it's not in the best of neighborhoods in the city, which of course the housing is going to be more expensive there, and that might put it out of reach for somebody. So that's why that affordable housing, people get misinterpret terms, talk about affordable housing. This isn't subsidized housing, what sometimes is called Section 8 housing. That's not that. Affordable housing is the young professional who's starting out in a job, starting a new career, starting a family. They're not ready for a house yet. That's what we have to have in Butler.
Yeah.
And that's all the way through the city, because that's another thing, again, going back to why do we have to have a vital downtown area. One of the things I learned about urban development is I've been working with things like the Main Street Center in Pennsylvania, and in some of the conferences and stuff I attend as mayor, is this idea that cities die from the center out. They also are rebuilt from the center out. You start with Main Street, you revitalize the Main Street, people want to live here, then it impacts the neighborhoods. And then we get to a point where people are saying, I want to move into that neighborhood. This is an affordable house. I can buy this cheap and fix it up, and I'm still in good territory, And so that's what people, that's what we're hoping that people do, and they invest in their neighborhoods, and then that raises the quality of the neighborhoods. You never want to get to gentrification where no one can afford to live in Butler,
Of course,
but you do want it to a point where it's nice neighborhoods, it's beautiful neighborhoods. It's
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm sort of on a weird cusp of, it would be nice to, the drive is long enough, right, where I'm like, okay, I could save on gas.
Sure.
I could go home for lunch, take my dog out in the middle of the day. There's certain things that I would be able to do if I lived like 5 minutes from work.
right.
And I'm sort of thinking, well, is this what I'm in that place again?
Yeah.
Because, I've moved a lot in my life. So moving to me is like nothing.
Right.
And I do think that maybe that's part of my nature, that I'm like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little, a little antsy.
And another thing too is somebody who's lived in big cities. I have friends who live in like outside of Manhattan or San Francisco, whatever, and their daily commute to work is an hour. And they think nothing of that. They go, what's that? It's where I get in the train, I read the paper, by the time I'm done,
when you're riding the train, when you're riding the train in New York, it's
so,
like,
we don't have that kind of issue here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, again, going back to your question about what would impact the city of Butler, if we want people to live in the city of Butler, we got to get a grocery store here. So I'll put the word out via your podcast, and maybe someday I can look back and say, that was the seed that was planted. We've got to get a grocery store. We are what is known as a food desert, and there are only a couple little things that are keeping us, people who don't have transportation, who don't have access to that, keeping them above the surface of the water.
Someone had said to me, well, people that drive don't want to drive. And I said, I would love to be able to leave work and I'll find a parking spot, because if that's the store I want to go to, because they've got good prices and I know that they have the things, right? That's a huge part of it too. And a point that you made, I want to kind of jump off this for a second. A point you made the other day is that a lot of people have these really great ideas of what they could do, but then they don't really understand all the work it's going to take and all of the time it's going to take. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
Absolutely.
And when we have an idea, like, please don't give up on the idea of something happening, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm always told that this has become sort of a stump speech for me lately, that oh, Bob, you're so positive, you're so optimistic,
yeah, you said that.
And I am, I mean, I believe that. But there seems to be this insinuation that I'm not realistic. That's not true either.
No,
that's not true. Because every one of the projects that I talk about, any one of the businesses, the investments and stuff, I realize this takes a massive commitment of energy, time, manpower, money. Okay, and those things are not in plentiful supply anymore. It's if we want to do any of these things, it's going to take that commitment. And I've been using a couple of examples recently. When you talk about this community, and this goes outside of the city now. And my favorite example is years ago, there wasn't a guy with a shovel and a garden hose standing out in the middle of a acreage saying, you know what we need here? A lake. Yeah. But nonetheless, Moraine happened, all right? And so now we have one of the most wonderful, beautiful parks, Moraine State Park. It's on the top 10 list of things to see in Pennsylvania, all right? It's gorgeous. It took a massive amount of money, commitment, energy, people working together. When you think about, for 9 years in a row, BC3 has been voted the best community college in Pennsylvania because somebody just said, oh, that's a good idea. I'll get a book and we'll open a storefront and we'll have a college. No, all right?
Yeah.
It was a massive commitment and some visionary thinking and risk by the county commissioners at that time to say, we're gonna do this. Most recently, I pointed to a much smaller project, and I always tell the story behind it. At one point in time when I was working with Butler downtown, a group of people came from Butler Tourism, County Tourism, and they had this great idea that they touted to Butler downtown about a Jeep festival, a festival built around the Jeep.
Story.
And I said, what? And they said, well, Butler's home of the Jeep. I go, yeah, I've lived in, born and raised and lived here all my life. So yeah, I know about the Jeep and I'm kind of tired of it. And they said, oh, it'll be this huge festival. And I said, I remember sitting here at this meeting, listening and talk about this thinking, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. Who the heck is going to come to Butler?
Well,
and they said, oh, it's going to happen every year. And I'm going to go, okay, yeah, that's nuts. Well, I was a little bit wrong about that. Thousands of people come. We had over 2,000 Jeeps in downtown
There
Butler.
are people that come from other countries, aren't there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There are people that ship their Jeeps here just to come.
All over this country,
I told
from
someone that,
other
and they
countries,
were like,
from Canada, all over the place. Yeah, they happen that they've come over across the ocean, I was walking up the street at the last one. I just happened to get engaged in a conversation. These people were from Toledo, Buffalo, Virginia, and State College. And they come here every year. They get together, and they come to the Jeep Festival.
Oh, cool.
Okay?
I love that.
How did this happen?
Yep. Someone had an idea.
Because somebody went, hey, let's have a party. No.
Yeah.
All right, it's a massive undertaking
Yeah.
that festival committee goes through. And then coupled with that was the idea of, all right, if we're going to have this big festival, if we are the home of the Jeep, we need something to commemorate it. And then the Rotary Club in Butler downtown, with a lot of other people contributing, working, supporting. Again, massive effort, including the amazing talent of Bill Secundo, one of our local artists, to make the Jeep sculpture that's now down at the other end of Maine.
Yeah.
That was not a small undertaking, but people did it. So when people say you're optimistic, well, yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic because I'm sitting talking to you right now in the Grand Ballroom, which is a beautiful venue in downtown Butler. I go to eat at the Chop Shop, which is a great restaurant in downtown Butler. I am happy to, socialize at Johnny's or the Brew Works or at, hopefully in the future, the Porchview Winery, okay? I shop at these stores. I eat in the old school restaurants like Natilli's, and I go to shop at Miller's Shoes, and I do all these things like this in Butler. All these events that are happening, they happen, okay? Not only do I believe in them positively that they can happen, but I have the evidence they do happen.
Yeah,
So now when we look at things like, can we get a grocery store here? Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Is it something I could just call up tomorrow and say, hey, would you open a grocery store here? Sure, Bob. And next thing you know, we have Trader Joe's in the middle of Butler. Oh, no, not going to happen.
Listen,
yeah.
Bob,
Yeah,
if you
from
made...
my mouth to God's ears, right? Yeah.
If Trader Joe's came to
It's
downtown,
not going to.
I would do backflips across this room. I'm telling you.
That's one of those things I've learned. That's not
You're
gonna-
like, that's not happening.
Well,
Hey.
and again, there's my realism. Because I know, and that's a good example now that you say that.
Well, because you know enough about like the
jokingly,
economics and
what Trader Joe's requires is the per capita income of people in an area before they'll decide to put in a grocery store. Now,
I mean, they don't even have one in Cranberry.
Yeah, I've always touted the fact that Well, we're at the intersection
Come to
of
Butler Trader
Route 8,
Joe's.
422, all these major highways that come together. And if they're listening, Trader Joe people, yes,
Trader
please come to
Joe's.
Butler,
You know what? You're optimistic and you're realistic, but you're also sitting here with me I am too, but I'm also like, well, have we tried? You hear stories of people making things that, were impossible or deemed impossible. And I'm just one of those people that I'm like, why not?
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you.
Why not?
One of my favorite quotes of all time, actually, I believe originally was George Bernard Shaw, the playwright, but it was often used by Robert Kennedy. And it's, some people see things the way they are and ask why. I dream things that never were, and I ask why not.
Yes.
Right? And I love that quote.
Wait.
And so I say,
I gotta give you some.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Sorry.
But I love that quote because it is true, okay? Now, if somebody comes to me and they say I have a finite amount of energy and resources and stuff, I probably don't point them in the direction of Trader Joe's. I say, let's talk to the local grocery chains, which are tremendous, let's get one of them to come into downtown Butler.
Yeah.
And I don't mean downtown at Main Street. I'm talking about city limit Butler,
Yeah.
We'll find the space. We'll find we'll work the deal. We'll get it done so that you can do this. You can make this happen.
You do that, I'm moving to Butler.
Yeah. We'll see.
No pressure.
That'd be great.
He's like, I'll get right on that.
I'll get right on that.
I'll get right on that. There's so many other things to
Well, to put it as another little example or illustration is when we've talked about the Penn Theater, what are the kind of acts, what are the things you're going to have there? Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift isn't going to come to the theater.
No, but
You're not
you could
bring
her
concert.
You could
there,
bring the Taylor Swift movie there.
Yeah, well, you could absolutely.
I probably shouldn't have said that because I actually pitched that idea to Mary and to Brian. I did meet with them last week, and to me, the Penn Theater is an experience, right? When I go to the Penn Theater, if I go to something, and I went in there and they've done a lot of upgrades since I was in there last time. So they now have that stage. They have their sound system installed. Things are really moving along.
The auditorium section of it, I was really surprised the last time I was in there.
Yeah.
And again, showing the cooperation that we have in the city. The school district, the Butler area schools, invited me to take a group of administrators and leadership from the school district on a tour of Butler. And Brian White, the superintendent, who I think is a great guy and really visionary leader, put this together. And we just went to all these places, and we went into Penn. It was the first time I had been there in probably maybe a month or 6 weeks. And I was amazed at how much they had added to that auditorium part of the theater. Again, there's more work to be done elsewhere, but in that auditorium, it is a great place now, really beautiful. And on that note, for that tour, it was kind of interesting because I said to Brian, one of my pet peeves as resident mayor, lifelong resident of the city, is when people say to me, there's never anything to do around here. And so I immediately start firing back at them. I say, have you ever been to a little theater? No. Have you ever been to Musical Theater Guild? No. You ever been to the Symphony? No. Have you ever gone to a ball game at
Pullman Park?
No, never done that. Have you ever been to the Cruisapalooza? No, never done that either. Oh, have you ever
Foodie Fridays?
Have you ever eaten at our? Yeah, going to a Foodie Friday. Have you ever eaten at any of our restaurants? Have you ever been to the farmers market? Got to be able to a little plug in for that. No, I didn't even know we had a farmers market. And they say all these things, and I get to the end of the thing, I just look at them and I go, shut up. All right, you're telling me you haven't taken advantage of all these things we already have, and these aren't things that we're going to have. These are things we are having. We are happening. Yeah. And they're not taking advantage of those things. And I invite everyone, calm down, take advantage of it. Is everything to your liking? No. All right. But come on, Foodie Friday, food, music, friends, shopping, for those people of a certain vintage again. I was talking with someone at one of the Foodie Fridays, and they said, Bob, I just think this is so great because, there were kids down there, there were families, there were young people, old people, they were eating, there was a band playing. It was just great being in downtown Butler. And I said, yeah. I said, remember when we were younger, they used to have a thing called neighborhood nights? And he went, yeah. And then he got real kind of wistful and went, too bad we don't have those anymore. And I kind of looked at him and I said, hello?
Yeah, what do you think?
Look around.
Look,
and they said, oh, yeah. They were,
yeah.
And I said, yeah, this is
You're
neighborhood nights. It's just, we're calling something different in a different spot now, And it was that idea of people coming together and socializing. So if you like that, the opportunity's there,
It's
and
there.
You just have to reach out and take hold of it. And all of that, again, one of my favorite sayings of all time is the rising tide raises all ships. And if these things grow, everything grows.
I agree. So what would you say to someone who has an idea that, perhaps they're like, I'm not sure how I can fund this. I'm not sure how I can. I mean, there's a lot of resources these days. I think grants are like a huge thing that people really utilize and use as a, just a starter. But having the idea, but having the clear vision, right?
Well, the clear vision.
I think the clear vision is the
and the clear plan.
Yeah.
It's not. It's the resources are there. It's who do you talk to get to that resource, the appropriate resource. Okay. I get into meetings sometimes, and it's with civic groups and people that want to plan an event and stuff, and they don't realize the logistics behind it. So they sit there and they say, okay, I know what we can do. Okay, we ought to do this event. All you have to do, Bob, is close down Main Street. Okay. Now, first of all, that is not as easy.
Sure, let me just.
I can close down McCain Street.
Yeah, you're like, let me pull my
but you got to
ribbon
realize,
across.
Well, Main Street is a state highway. So we have to go to PennDOT, we have to get the clearances and approvals and sign off on all these documents and make applications. Now we can close off Main Street, okay? But just to do it takes a lot of work.
They're like, you're the mayor, and you're like...
Yeah, and so then they look at me and they say things like, well, who would help us with the finances? And right away they go, and I won't name them because they do enough, and I don't want anybody reaching out to them again, but institutions, clubs, and businesses in this town who are always there for the community. And they say, well, we'll just ask them to write a check. They've already written checks for this, and this. You can't go to them again. Oh, we'll get a grant. There's a grant through the county. There's a grant through the state. Yeah, but that's not for an event in a downtown area. That's to put a community garden in a neighborhood. So doesn't apply. You have to get lined up with the right people. And there are people who have the roadmap that they can sit down and say, okay, let's come up with a plan. And again, we in the city, if there's one thing I can do as mayor, is facilitate putting you with the right person who can do the roadmap, okay? Say, here's what you need to do. Here's who you need to get in touch with. Here's the application to fill out. Let's get it done. And, right now we're doing that with the initiative that we're undertaking as a city, that we're trying to get some education and analysis of our city services budget, everything like that for the actual city. This is for city council to learn from. And it's taken a lot of work, and all we've done is complete the application so far. It's now submitted to the state, and we're ready to hear some results from it. But that took a lot of work. But I utilized a lot of people to get that done. And
of course. But it's possible. It's just people have to be realistic in the sense that it's going to take time.
Yeah, and they have to get educated on it. So come to the city, come to me, come to the county commissioners and say, I want to do this. How do I do it? Who do I talk to? And we'll get you lined up. And sometimes that's not always government. People don't want government goofing around and things like that. I don't either, Sometimes it is a private investor. You say, you need to talk to this guy, this woman.
Yeah.
They have the resources. They would be really interested in that,
Well, it was kind of interesting, and just kind of like in conclusion, right? We're going to wrap up, but something that I've talked about on the podcast since it started and is human connection. And I think that having these businesses in downtown Butler, it does create that atmosphere of human connection. I know a lot of people in this town who, when we are talking about specifically about addiction, the struggle for them is having a place to go where maybe those are the only people they see all day or in an entire week. Because there are a lot of people that live alone in this world, in this town, and for them to have these places to go to, have Cummings, have Vintage, Chop Shop. Even, I was talking to someone from Grapevine the other day who's going to be on next week, and she was saying that they have people that come in and because they're not going to see anyone. They're all alone, right? Or they don't have air conditioning.
Right.
And they're literally coming here because it's so hot at their house.
Sure.
And they can't afford it. Or
Absolutely.
they're, and those are like whole separate conversations, right? But I think that it is important for us to have these types of resources for people. So it does keep people here and bring more people here.
Well, the very nature of the word community is we were in communion with each other here in this city, and all of the things I'm talking about build that sense of community. I recently, we had to do an initiative, whatever you want to call it, an ask to local businesses in the community because this 4th of July week, Independence, as we're filming this a couple of days away. And so we're going to have a fireworks celebration. That's essential to the 4th of July. John Adams said that would be done for eons and generations to come. So I said, okay, we want to do it. It's very expensive. And I said, it's one of the weirdest sensations as mayor that the first year that I did it, and we have this big fireworks display in the sky, and I'm saying, my gosh, I'm blowing up a bunch of money. All right. I mean, it is, I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, because
that's kind of cool though.
It is very expensive. But I realized the essence and the essential nature of bringing everybody together for that celebration to mark that great noble experiment that is America. Boy, there's some highfalutin language for you, huh? But to come together and celebrate that, and to come together as a community. So we have Cruisapalooza a couple weeks ago, or coming up here, the Italian Festival at the end of August.
Oh, the Italian Festival.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That everybody comes together, and it's kind of like St. Patrick's Day, that one day everybody's Irish, well, in Butler, it's the one day everyone's Italian,
Yeah.
And everybody comes downtown, and you have that sense of community that harkens back to those neighborhood nights of my childhood, to the different events we've had over the years. It becomes essential, becomes important. And you don't feel like you're kind of going off alone through the tides of life. And it heartens me when people comment about that on our city, that they say, there's some people that don't think it's this, and I don't understand it because I've always thought it was a friendly city. Maybe because people say hello to me when I walk down the street. Because I'm the mayor? I don't think so. You know why I think they say hello to me? Because I say hello to them. Okay? It's as simple as that. And as we reach out to each other on the streets and at the events and stuff, that becomes very important, and it builds that community that I can draw on and say, okay, we want to get a grocery store. I need 8 million people to write letters, all right?
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Then I can do that, and I can easily go, and like I did with the fireworks, go to this community and say, support this. And they did. We got more than enough money to pay for the fireworks without dipping into the city coffers. So,
amazing. Making it happen. Well, thank you for sitting down and talking
Thanks
to
for
me.
asking me.
And coming down here and waiting for me to set up. But yeah, this is a beautiful space, and I'm so glad that you were. I mean, I knew if anyone was going to be able to make this happen, it was the mayor of Butler, Bob Dandoy. I said, do you think, could we record there? And I think within an hour you text me and you're like, good to go.
Yeah, that's good.
We're good to go. So thank you, sir.
Thanks to Joe and Jackie for letting us use the
Yes.
place.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the thank you for letting them come into
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I always like
You're welcome. Yeah.
talking.
I mean, we didn't even talk about how we know each other, but I mean, you've known me since I was little. You knew my parents. You knew my dad when he was alive, and
good friends, good times.
Yeah.
And again, there you go. That's the sense of community and generations has brought you back to Butler right now. And now, if that doesn't happen, your parents weren't here, we were friends then, you were not sitting across from each other, and I had this opportunity to reach out to the people of Butler and tell them a little bit of what's going on. And what we can do.
And if you have ideas and if you know someone at Trader Joe's, let us know. Sorry, I'm going to keep saying Trader Joe's. I'm just going to keep saying it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Eagle. Join me every Monday for a new episode. And be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Alter Eagle Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.